Is China building a multi-acre spy center in the middle of London? And is the UK government high-fiving them for it? Let's talk about China's embassy construction and why it's so suspicious. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Hit subscribe, and of course, if you can, support me and the team. Keep us independent by becoming a member at combatvetnews.com. Uncensored combat footage, analysis from the front lines, stuff you can't get anywhere else. Now, let's talk about China's embassy. Now, the Chinese People's Republic, has asked London to permit them to build a super embassy. How big is the super embassy? 614,000 square feet. For context, guys, a Walmart supercenter here in the United States averages about 200,000 square feet, right? So you're talking about the size of 3 Walmart supercenters, just absolutely preposterous in scale. But more troubling is not so much the actual the footprint of the complex, but the size of it. And here's some of the problems that people see in it. It's a 5.5 acre complex literally in central London, sitting conveniently atop key communication and fiber optic cables, particularly those that feed into financial hubs like the City of London and Canary Wharf, the financial center of Europe, but also that feed into a number of key data centers located in London. But you think, well, they're underground. The embassy is going to be on top of the ground. Not so much. The embassy actually is reportedly asked for a sprawling number of tunnels, of basements on basements on basements, right? Right. And obviously in London, there's no problem building up. London has plenty of skyscrapers, and it's not really seen as a big problem. But Beijing's plan are asking for a huge basement area, multiple underground rooms, and a tunnel connecting the embassy to a separate building elsewhere on the embassy grounds. Now, the general consensus is that these would likely house the Chinese CIA, the Ministry of State Security, operations rooms, and collection centers. But also, it is sufficiently high and will have line of sight on a couple of key UK government facilities, right? Part of this embassy house, the one that they're building a secret tunnel to connect to, is going to face directly northwest, which will provide unobstructed views of key buildings in London's financial district. And what's notable is that China actually tried this in 2022. They wanted to construct a 70-foot white pagoda in DC's National Arboretum, but the FBI determined that it could be used to spy on Congress. So this is, pretty troubling for a couple of reasons. The first is if they grant this to, if the UK government grants this, right, that facility will become Chinese sovereign territory, right? This is sort of how embassies work. And once the UK government says, yes, this is sovereign territory, the chances of the Chinese respecting these building plans is actually pretty limited. I think probably what they are simply saying is, listen, we don't want to raise alarms if we start to dig under the Chinese embassy, and we don't want to raise alarms when we start to build upward. And once it's an embassy, China's just going to do whatever it wants because it's Chinese territory. So, but the problem is a little more nuanced than that, right? Because the Chinese actually asked for this embassy in 2022, but Rishi Sunak's government said, absolutely not. We're never going to do this. And so the Chinese just basically backed off. And then now that there's a new government under Kai Starmer, they are resubmitting their plans saying, listen, why don't we revisit this? And it seems like the Starmer government might be saying, yeah, we can revisit this, partially because the UK is looking for a bit more rapprochement on China. And this is an example, again, of the what the White House would even tell you is an America First agenda, which says that your friends are just are actually exploiting you, right? Like every good abusive spouse, they say, listen, honey, you have all these friends who you talk about your problems with, who give you a perspective on your life. They're a threat to our marriage. Cut them out immediately. And that's kind of how Trump has started treating his friends. They've said, listen, you UK, you've been taking advantage of us. We want you to sign this shitty trade deal, right? Just like the UK has said, hey, as Europeans, we're really concerned about this Russian aggression in Ukraine. We think it's part of a larger campaign. And as we've pointed out on this channel, it isn't just isolated to Russia. Russian intelligence agents have been confirmed. It's been said in open court in the UK that Russian intelligence agents and people they have contracted have been burning down UK government facilities, destroying warehouses with UK munitions bound for Ukraine. They actually lit Kai Starmer's SUV and his private residence on fire. So, you know, the UK government, when they go to their friend the United States and say, listen, this isn't just a war over there, over here in Europe. It's literally a personal threat to us. And so we want you guys to stand by Ukraine. Standing by Ukraine is standing by us, your friends, the Europeans, who stood by you through the Iraq War, who stood by you through the war in Afghanistan. They said, listen, we need you to help us out here. We're not asking American troops to fight and die. Just give us some weapons. And having the Trump administration turn around and go, actually, go F yourselves. We're going to do whatever we want, right? And if you're the UK, when the other wealthy country, the second wealthiest country on planet Earth, knocks on your door and says, listen, we'd really like to be better friends, but we want to build this big embassy. And we're building such a big embassy. Sure, we're going to have some spies in it, but we already spy on you. And so this big embassy is going to reflect our bigger, stronger commitment to each other. Don't you want to have a bigger, stronger commitment to us? Sure, we're not a democratic country, but he goes, look at the democratically elected leader in the United States. He doesn't seem like a very supportive friend. Wouldn't you rather have this authoritarian government? We're stable. We'll at least honor our agreements, even if we are a little bit nefarious. And the UK may actually be saying, hey, that's not such a bad deal, right? And of course, the average UK citizen likely understands that that selling these buildings, right, the existing building to the Chinese is also going to be a little screwed up, right? So he says, listen, giving this building, one UK citizen said, giving this building to the foreign government, especially the Chinese, is a joke, right? And this fear that handing this over to the Chinese, you know, I think it's valid, but the UK government has an obligation to the UK. And especially given that their economy is starting to falter, they may be looking and saying, listen, given this, given the state of our economy, it may be worth it to make better friends with the Chinese, given that we've had our ability to trade with the United States diminished considerably. Again, if I were them and my goal was to boost my economy and one of the world's largest economies had sanctioned the shit out of me through the use of tariffs, I would look at the other economy who says, listen, you got to be our friend. You got to be our ally here and support us geopolitically, but we'll give you access to our massive market and allow your economy to thrive. And by the way, a lot of Chinese really think highly of UK culture. So there's the potential for tourism dollars, export dollars, luxury goods. The UK, you know, UK leadership is probably seriously considering this offer as kind of a symbol. Think of it as a symbolic trade deal to say, yes, you can have a massive embassy here. Yes, we understand that's what that is going to entail, but our intelligence services are going to watch you carefully to make sure you don't do anything, given that we have at least a sense of how you are operating. And you can see this is the South China Morning Post, which is a mouthpiece for the Chinese government by and large. And again, this is an op-ed that was dropped in saying Beijing's proposed new embassy in London could benefit Britain, right? And, you know, the Chinese argument is, again, it's a symbol of China's rising status and its commitment to a long-term presence in the UK, right? They say the UK understands this well. and some have accused Britain of selling the family silver, right? Because, again, this is a large historic building, the former Royal Mint that China wants to occupy. But they point out that the Thai and Japanese governments have also bought historic buildings for their embassies. And right, this has been sort of wryly, obliquely said, oh, well, they think it's a national security risk because it's on top of sensitive cables, right? And it says these concerns come off as spy paranoia. They don't. They're completely valid. They're completely valid concerns. So, again, right, they talk about, planning permission regarding security and public safety. And they say, listen, some people are concerned about protest scale, but nothing is more UK than to not worry as much about the safety and security of your country and go, but what about the protesters? What if the protesters want to have an authorized protest? It's like, guys, the point of protesting is that it's not organized and systematic. But you can see the Chinese are already out here trying to dismiss national security concerns and really put the hammer down on in favor of this gigantic embassy. And so it's a troubling direction, but I think it's one that, again, if you're the UK government, you're kind of backed into it, right? The days of the unipolar world are over, and China understands that if you want to be in a sort of competitive state with the United States, you have to rally friends. And this is an opportunity, given the Trump administration's hostility towards its friends. This is an opportunity to peel away kind of edge cases, particularly someone like the UK, an economy that is where growth has slown to a crawl, where they feel isolated and cut off from the United States. The United States isn't backing them in their interests in Ukraine. The U.S. isn't backing them economically because they're tariffing them instead. And so China is like, listen, we got to swoop in and do this, right? And the other thing to take away, though, is that, the Chinese spy apparatus is very different because in the U.S., we view sort of defense and political data as being most important to gather for espionage purposes. The Chinese do not operate that way. They operate under what's called state capitalism, which is this idea, one increasingly used even here in the United States, that the government has a literal or a figurative stake in large major industries, right? Particularly those of strategic importance. And so China often says, listen, the financial sector is one of these strategically important industries. And so if they can tap into the secure communications of major European financiers and the financial industry, they would be able to give China's financial industry tremendous edges in the sort of art and science of sophisticated financing. And it's something that the West, China clearly believes, does quite well, even though at times they've said that the West actually, the financial industry soaks up too much of the West's best technical talent. But getting access to that data would be something that would give Chinese firms, that would be almost certainly provided to Chinese firms, and give them a leg up on competing on the global scale. This has been incredibly normal. Chinese shipbuilders have done this, getting access to American shipbuilder data. Chinese chip manufacturers and AI companies have done this, getting access to hacked AI company data in the US. And well, there's no AI companies in Europe, but then feeding it into Chinese companies to make sure that they can leap ahead. And so the Chinese government does this, right? It'd be like if the CIA were to hear, hey, we've heard that Russia has developed a newer, faster microprocessor, something with no clear military applications, and it was to hack that data and then hand it over to Intel, right? That's basically what the Chinese do on a routine basis, and it's worked tremendously well for them. They've leapfrogged from an agrarian nation to a highly competitive one competitive on the global stage. So again, is this going to be a long-term benefit for the UK? Probably not. Anyway, guys, hit that subscribe button. Thanks to folks like I Just Guy called Chris Rossi, AL90, Sergey Zinchenko, D. Stewart, James Porsche, B. Hemmerling, all of our lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without you guys. See you in the next one. Cheers.